My granddaughter turned 6 months this week. She, like all children, is a delight to behold. She's this close to crawling. She really likes solid food, and she loves the outside. Her fine motor skills are steadily improving, and she's good at grasping things with her little hands, like the spoon when we're trying to feed her. Occasionally, she will just hold up her hands and look at them as she flexes her fingers and pivots her wrist, just beholding herself. I was telling my spouse about the reading that we had this morning from Cole Arthur Riley, in which her father describes an experience where he has this dance class and he makes this particular leap and he surprises himself when he sees what his body does. And then he says this line, "It's not arrogant to wow yourself every once in a while. It's not arrogance, it's just paying attention." And my granddaughter, as I was describing this reading to my spouse, in that exact moment, there in our living room, lifts up her hand and wows herself, flexing her fingers. Our opening hymn, "Oh, What a Piece of Work Are We," is not one that we sing much. Nowadays, if somebody says, "Oh, he's a real piece of work," it's not meant as a compliment, it's a little bit of shade. But an earlier rendering of that phrase was intended to signal awe. How marvelously wrought, the hymn says. It's not arrogance to wow yourself every once in a while, it's just paying attention. Our bodies are locations of wonder and beauty. All the world's wondrousness is not contained in the birds and the waterfalls and the slanting sunlight at dawn. We, too, are locations of awe and amazement if we will but pay attention. Do you pay attention? Do you love your body? I know loving our own body is fraught in our culture. There is so much shame poured out onto us about our bodies. Are they thin enough, curvy enough, soft enough, hard enough? Are they the wrong color, the wrong shape, the wrong size? The shame we are encouraged to have about our bodies is boundless. James Baldwin once wrote, "It took many years of vomiting up all the filth I'd been taught about myself and half believed before I was able to walk on the earth as though I had a right to be here." This can be caught up, as it was here in this quote, in racism or homophobia. It can be caught up in sexism or fat phobia or just plain old run-of-the-mill family of origin toxicity. It can be an act of liberation to love yourself, to love your body. Do you notice now and then how wondrous and beautiful you are? It is a grounding virtue, a root value for living to be able to see your own beauty. Beauty is necessary. Baldwin talked about unlearning the negative so that he could walk on the earth as if he had a right to be here, to belong. With Baldwin, I say, when we are able to belong within our own skin, then we are able to belong anywhere. Do you feel like you belong? Loving our own bodies, being wowed by ourselves every now and then, opens us to so much more. It is a grounding virtue to be aware of your own beauty. Are you grounded in beauty? Early in this pandemic, back when we still thought it was going to stretch on for months before we knew it would stretch on for years, a few wise souls started talking a lot about somatic practices. This became a theme in some of my collegial ministers' gatherings and retreats. More than once in 2020, I attended a program by Zoom focused on somatic practices around grounding and embodied resilience, around getting back into our own bodies. What a gift it was to be invited into that practice. I am far more familiar with spiritual practices that, to be honest, lead me away from my body. I do a regular sitting meditation, a practice of emptying my thoughts. And while learning to do this kind of silent meditation, thoughts would intrude, my own body would intrude, something would itch, I would feel a need to fidget, there would be an ache in that joint, right? The goal of this silent emptying meditation is to notice this desire to fidget, to notice that itchy part of my body, notice and release it. But these somatic practices I was being offered at the beginning of the pandemic were intended to have me focus on my body. When my attention was on this or that part of my body, the point was not to gently notice and release. The point was to gently notice and embrace. Here we all were, clergy, online, isolated and unable to be together in person, each of us alone on our computer screens, trying to connect across the long, lonely distance. And instead of lament, problem solving, or minimizing, we were invited to celebrate our own bodies, to appreciate how our bodies were surviving, showing up in these hard times, to notice how marvelously wrought. And here's the thing. This activity was designed to help us with the isolation. It seems counterintuitive, but it worked. It was intended to help us connect with each other, to support and be supported by each other by focusing on our own bodies. Adrienne Maree Brown has said, belonging doesn't begin with other people accepting us. It begins with our acceptance of ourselves, of that particular life and skin each of us are born into, and the work of that particular birth that it entails. From that deep place of belonging to ourselves, she continues, we can understand that we are inherently worthy of each other. If you are feeling isolated and disconnected, if it's the pandemic or some other circumstance that's causing you to feel cut off, there is a healing way to begin just with yourself. Adrienne Maree Brown has been an important teacher to many Unitarian Universalists lately. Her name keeps showing up. She's been leading workshops at General Assembly and for religious professionals. She's not a Unitarian Universalist, but I think she likes us. She helps me to see the connection between my own deep place of belonging within myself, where I notice the beauty and wondrousness of my own body, with what, as she puts it, understanding that we are all inherently worthy of each other. I can notice the beauty and wondrousness of my body. It's not arrogant to wow yourself every once in a while. It's not arrogance, it's just paying attention. Now, I do know being self-focused has a negative edge. I understand how loving yourself and thinking yourself quite beautiful can show up as a personality flaw. But this spiritual practice of loving your own body, of being wowed by yourself now and then, is not an exercise in vanity. In the reading we had this morning from This Here Flesh, if you haven't read this book or don't even know anything about it, oof, good stuff. Cole Arthur Riley warned against imagining beauty as something out there, only found in art or in nature, or affirmed through the eyes of another. And she wrote, "In this state, you are not approaching what you are seeking. You are running from your own face." Vanity is about seeking external proof of our beauty in others' eyes. What we're talking about now is acknowledging the internal evidence of the wondrousness and beauty within ourselves. To be truly self-aware of my own beauty does not lead me into vanity. Instead, it leads me deeper into connection with the beauty of others. Riley talked about it as a capacity to be in awe of humanity, even your own. Earlier, I said this beauty can be a grounding virtue, a root value. Loving our own bodies, being wowed by ourselves every now and then opens us up to so much more, I said. I want to talk about the more. I want to talk about what grows out of this root of awareness of our own beauty. When we know that we belong to ourselves, when we love our own bodies as they are, it opens us to a stance of acceptance for ourselves that will automatically be extended to others. The same paying attention that allows us to wow ourselves every once in a while allows us to be wowed by others as well. We are meant to be connected. We are meant to have roots that go down, but also runners that travel out. We are meant to be in this together so that we all might thrive. This line of reasoning takes us into conversations about the welfare of all those in need, into convictions of liberation and justice, into connections of respect and love without jealousy for the success and joy of others. These conversations and convictions and connections are the more that I'm talking about, that can arise from our simple self-awareness of our own beauty and wondrousness. I invite you to notice your own hand. Have you looked at your hand lately? Really look at it. It's a little easier for babies, I know. My granddaughter is a mere half a year old and perhaps easily impressed. It's just harder for us adults to release all the layers of negativity that we've been fed through the years. But notice your hand. You are a marvel to behold. It is not arrogant to wow yourself every once in a while. It's not arrogance, it's just paying attention. Our bodies are locations of wonder and beauty. All the world's wondrousness is not contained in the birds and waterfalls and the slanting sunlight at dawn. We too are locations of awe and amazement if we will but pay attention. And what about all the other hands around us? We were meant to be connected. We were meant to see each other's beauty. We each carry the image of the divine, right? We are meant to see the holy within each other. What if that is meant communally? Arthur Cole Riley raises this point in her book. She says, some theologians say it's not an individual, but a collective people that bears the image of God. I like this, she says, because it means we need a diversity of people to reflect God more fully. Anything less, and the image becomes pixelated and grainy, still beautiful, but lacking in clarity. So my message today is not only a message of embracing your own beauty, your own body. It's also a message of liberation and wonder. All of humanity is caught up in this image of God. You, yes, certainly you, but also everyone else. In fact, only with everyone else. When you feel isolated or disconnected, you can reliably turn to your own body for wisdom and wonder. You are a location of beauty and awe in this universe. And from there, do you notice all the other amazing people as well? When we are grounded in beauty, we will belong in this world. When we are grounded in beauty, we will see the amazing beauty of others. When we are grounded in our own beautiful bodies, we will respect and honor the bodies of others, particularly the vulnerable among us. When we are grounded in beauty, we are connected like roots and runners to everything else, and we will bring more justice and care to the world because we love this beauty. When we are grounded in beauty, we will belong. When we belong, we will welcome others to also belong, and from there, every good thing can grow. It is not arrogance to believe this is true. It's just paying attention. In a world without end, may it be so. I invite you to sing our closing hymn,